Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Leading with Light. Today, we want to move and want to talk about a topic that is resting on me since the hurricane in Jamaica. And so we want to get going this morning. And I want to welcome all those who are joining for the first time and those who are constant. I see you there, Franklin. I see you, Simone. Thank you so much for joining. I see you, Marjorie. Thank you so much for joining and for always supporting. Today, we are looking at leveraging emotional leadership for recovery and healing. And this is a pertinent topic because as we dive into this critical conversation, we want to focus on how we can recover and how we can heal personally, organizationally, and collectively. I see you there. I don't want to pronounce your name incorrectly. Let me just say C. I see you, C. Okay, so we are in a time when, in my opinion, people are productive, but they are not well. They are present, but they are still not whole, and they are still absent. And so they are working, but they are hurting. And so emotional intelligence leadership is no longer optional. It is mandatory. It is a must. It is an essential thing for our leadership and for our life. And we want to make sure that we touch that today. Thank you so much for joining, Jackie. I see you, Nicholas, Dr. Leslie. I see you. Thank you so much. All right. So by popular requests, persons have always requested their PowerPoint, and so I'm going to dive right into it so you see what is there. For those who don't know me, I am a faith-based leadership consultant. I am also an empowerment life purpose coach, and I am an author, a trainer. I help persons to and guide persons and support persons to also complete their dissertation, which is master's or doctoral. And I'm also a motivational speaker. I think I've been a motivational speaker longer than I've been an author and a coach. As I say, today we want to talk about a very important topic, especially as I reminisce on what is happening in Jamaica and how it is affecting those who I love, those who have groomed me, my faith, and so on. So these last programs are really intended for the leaders, the business leaders who have lost so much, who are grappling to recover, the educational leaders in the community, and church leaders, and also the leaders in their families that we call parents. All right. I want to start with one of my famous quotes that I love. As you know, I start with a quote every time. What we don't need in the midst of struggle is a shame for being human. This is so important for me. What we don't need in the midst of struggle is shame for being human. The pressure, I say, to maintain a perfect image, meet expectations, and achieve success can become worse, can become very frustrating, can make you feel helpless, and as a leader told me yesterday, hopeless. Today I'm motivated, and in a few minutes, my motivation falls. I'm not managing. And so these symptoms can come from having to maintain a perfect image and meet expectations of all and sundry and being all things to all men, and also trying to achieve the standards you have set for yourself and what it is that you normally could do before you actually had this crisis. So I want to talk about today, or highlight with your help and with your suggestions and your comments. Good morning, Lisa. I see you there. Thank you so much for joining, Mary. I appreciate this. I appreciate it. And thank you for repeating. What we don't need in the middle of struggle is shame for being human. Very much so. I believe that with all my heart. And sometimes it's a challenge, but it can be done. All right. So we're talking about how emotion. I want to highlight how emotional leadership can accelerate recovery and healing, personally, organizationally, and collectively. All right. So we want to thank those who are joining as we move. All right. So let's talk about, first of all, emotions, why emotional leadership matters. It's very important for me because if you don't see yourself as a winner, then you cannot perform as a winner. And that is a struggle that many leaders are having at this time across the world. They are followers, they are not leaders. They are compromisers, they are not leaders. They are helpless. And so they can't move because they are bounded by the constraints of their situation. Jamaica is in that predicament right now, where if we are not careful, we give up instead of rise up. And we bow instead of standing. And we fall instead of remaining constant. And that happens because life leadership is not business as usual. Emotional fatigue is at its high, its all-time high across every single industry. And so leaders are under greater pressure because they set the emotional temperature for the team. And whether intentionally or not, they find themselves pulling, dragging, or pushing their team members away. So when leaders demonstrate emotional intelligence, which for me, I'm going to dig in a little, includes empathy, compassion, awareness, and grounded decision making, it creates an environment in your organization that promotes and maintains stability amidst chaos. Oh my, in Jamaica, it's a challenge for educational leaders. It's a challenge for community leaders. Right now, I see many of them who I always saw being strong and resilient. I see them move to tears. I see the frustration. I see the need for them to be supported. And some are calling out and some are not. And that's where the problem is, because healing becomes possible, trust grows, and engagement returns when leaders are emotionally together. Emotional leadership is rarely the foundation of recovery when there's a crisis. So let's sum up what I just said. Emotional fatigue is widespread. Leaders shape emotional climate, and healing builds trust and engagement. Yes, Dr. Leslie, that's our motto in Jamaica. We fall down, but we get up. And there's a song that is out there now that says we rise up stronger. Thank you so much for that. And that is what we need. We just don't need in the middle of the struggle the shame for being human, because anything can happen to anyone. All right, so let's talk about what is emotional leadership. So emotional leadership is being defined by several scholars, but I have actually reframed or write my interpretation of emotional leadership from the paradigm or the content of Daniel Coleman. All right. And so it is really the ability to understand what's happening emotionally within you and others and respond wisely. It's not about being soft. It's about being self-aware. It's about being steady. It's about being responsive. It means that you know your triggers, and so you don't protect them, you confront them, and you navigate them with your survival tools that is working for you. And these survival tools must not push you inward. It must actually add value. It must build your recovery, and it must contribute to your healing. It must not prevent it. And so if we talk about emotional leadership, it means that you guide conversations with realism, practical resilience, and also with empathy. And it also means that you model the emotional posture you want your team to adopt. You are true to yourself, so you cannot be false to any man. And that encourages people to be true to your team, to be true to themselves. You face the reality of what has changed, and you accept what has changed, and you look at what you are carrying out of your crisis, of your upheaval, why you must pivot, and how you must actually pivot. And that is another important point that you have made, Dr. Leslie. Thank you so much. What it's really saying that if you find yourself in hell, you're to keep moving your feet. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Leslie. All right, Jackie, I see your comment. I think the only people that shame others are those that aren't happy or in alignment in their own world. Those who are not real. I had a post the other day that says this is for just real people. People who don't understand that life has its ups and downs, and it can throw you curveballs, and it can throw you many at one time. And you may reach a point where you can't go on anymore without some support. That doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you less human than anybody else. And it doesn't make you a failure. A pause is not a dead end. And so emotional leadership, I'm summing up now based on what I've said, is that you're understanding your emotional triggers, what triggers you, and how you trigger others. You're listening to your team, what is said and what is not said. So you're guiding your team's emotion with wisdom, because some people can stay right where they are as victims, and they recover at their own pace, and it can be challenging if someone has fortified themselves in the victim mentality for you to pull them into the victor mentality. And so we are not saying it is easy. We are saying that you use guidance, you use wisdom through active listening to what is said and not said. And in the process, you know what it is that it is in your power to do, and you release those things that are not in your power. You also try to model your calm because you have clarity and because you are human and you have compassion. So you are now able to weigh when persons are passing the boundaries and when persons need much more than you have to give them, when persons must be referred and not alienated nor excluded, but referred, and when they are to be nudged. All of that requires you to be clear in your mind and to be very sure about the decisions you're making and how you move. And so emotional leadership is balancing logic with reason and also ego and emotions. So you're ruling with your heart and also with your head. You know when the heart must become the boss and must pull persons into an embrace of safety, of understanding, of support. And you know when your head tells you what is not negotiable or what should not be negotiated, what should not be a matter of consensus. Because sometimes we lead people who look out for their good and not the greater good. And that collective decision may not sit well with everyone, but it has to be made. And in the end, persons who are wise and sensible understand that. All right. So, Dr. Leslie, I see your point. The tools are practice thinking. Yes, yes. The mind is where we are going. And God talks to us about that. He says, let the mind be in you. This mind of moving forward, of succeeding, of sacrifice, of helping persons, of connection. Your mind is your greatest battleground. In fact, I believe that your mind is your final judge, because it is in the mind that things are formed. It is in the mind that things are overcome, that fear or faith take root and then fortify itself in your spirit. It is in the mind that you have already made up yourself not to give up, and that is pushed into your spirit to keep going, to move forward. And so you must practice the type of thinking that is for recovery and healing. And God talks about that. You must tell your mind and nurture and support the right things in your mind. Okay, if the leader has accepted it, you're absolutely right, because we emulate and mimic our leaders. This is so much so. And that is why you are really a leader. That is why you're at the head of the pack, because you have overcome. And that's it. For me, this is my opinion. Leadership, when you become a leader, by default or by divine script, it's because something is in you that makes you stand out, that makes you able to change people's lives and outcomes with the gifts, the unique gifts and talents that you possess. I'm sorry. So we have to understand all of that. And we want to give a compassionate, emotional, supportive shout out to the Philippines, which is now being battered by almost 20 typhoons yearly. And Charita is reminding us that the people in Philippines never allow such devastation to make them surrender in life. Very good point. Despite it all, they have learned how to put their emotions in check as humans and leaders, as citizens of a country geographically placed by God in the path of natural calamities. I could not have said it better myself. I love this part, Charito. Put the emotions in check as human leaders and as citizens of a country geographically placed by God in the path of natural calamities. What a powerful acceptance, what a powerful mindset, what a powerful push for survival and recovery. You will always be resilient, you will always stand out, you will always move forward. Thank you so much for joining, Petronella. We are discussing something that is of importance to me, and now I see clearly that it is also of importance to Charito because of the strategic placement that God has placed on our countries. The leader must be aware of their own unconscious bias and leave them at the door so they aren't picked up by the team. Very much so. All right, so the heart and head works together. And I think the brain is really the boss. I think the brain is really the boss. So I'm saying, in an organization, after a crisis, after a typhoon, after a Hurricane Melissa, after a big dip in an organization that can be traumatic, after this crisis, there is a human aftershock. And I said it in my last session, that we tend to overlook. Many people, and I want us to understand this as a coach, it is becoming more and more evident for me that many persons on our team return to work physically, but not emotionally. And I hope that as leaders, we are paying attention today, especially leaders in Jamaica and so on. So we are seeing persons returning to work physically. We are thinking that the normalcy will do them so much great good, but emotionally they do not return. And so there are leaders now that are speaking to me through my Purpose Reborn group coaching cohort, that are saying that they are seeing subtle anxiety. And persons who are usually calm are very agitated and very sensitive. They seem to be going through the motions. There seem to be a lack of motivation. There seem to be grappling with hidden grief and some amount of burnout. And there seem to be some simmering frustration that they can't actually pinpoint, they can't place their hand on. They know something is wrong, they are not sure what it is. And these are not performance issues. I want to make that clear. These are called unprocessed emotions. And there must be an avenue for them to safely express these emotions. And so, as leaders, we must recognize the aftershock in our own experience, in our own situation and circumstance, and the aftershock that many of our team members are also experiencing before we can help them through it. So, if we find ourselves with these unexplained symptoms, with sudden anxiety, a leader explained to me that every time the rain is said, is every time she hears that the rain is going to fall, she and her husband have a panic attack that they never had before the crisis in Jamaica, because they had serious flooding and their house top blew off. They had to find ways out, and she didn't know it was affecting her or her husband until anytime it's going to rain or it seems as if there's going to be heavy rain, they begin to literally shake. And she said she had to go to the doctor, speak to the doctor, and they have given her some anxiety medication. They actually get anxiety attacks. And so it's not, you might be returning to work looking good, looking physically okay, but emotionally it's not all together. And we, as I said, must recognize those subtle signs of anxiety, and we must be able to take a break, and we must be able to give her a break, because as I said before, it's really not business as usual. All right. Could heart and head be one? I am of the opinion, based on the Bible and based on science, that the brain is different from the heart. The heart has a different function and the brain has a different function if we look at it literally. I also feel now, because God says that the mind is where everything is. Whatever things are pure and true and honest, think on those things. So I think it is the mind, scientifically and also biblically, that directs that power of choice, that make us choose to have faith or to be fearful, that make us choose to work from logic or our emotion. And so they work together as a team, but they are not one. That's my opinion. The head is always the boss, because the head is where the root of all decisions, choices, movement are made. All right, so we want to talk about the different emotional styles, emotion leadership styles, because persons thinking that emotion is just being aware and so on. But Daniel Coleman is an author that I feel has the grip on emotional intelligence more than any other. And he presents 6 emotional leadership styles that are very important for us to understand, because you will find that one leads when there is a crisis much more than anything else. Thank you for joining, Nicole. It's so good to have you all here. Please remember to give your expert opinions, and also any questions you may have, or anything that you might want to have aired right here. This is a collaborative session, and we want everyone to share their opinions and what they need to unlearn, what they are relearning, and what they are learning. All right, so we want to look first of all at the cohesive or commanding leader. And so this leader says, do what I tell you. And during a crisis where a lot is now placed on the leader, this leader who has that type of style will now be more assertive and will make decisions and choices for the collective good without necessarily because he or she might not have the time for consensus and has to do strategically what must be done and act very much in a with strategic leadership skills and transactions that are for the greater good. And so while this works best in a crisis, if it is overused, it can damage the culture. So a leader might need to take in, an educational leader might only be able to take in those who are going to be doing national exams for starters, and might have to put the other persons on online if there is that availability. But you might find that teachers don't want to come out to work because they are still grappling. Those teachers that are online, because of the system, they would maybe want them to be present on the campus so they can clock in and clock out. But these teachers might not be able to do it because of the terrain, because of the losses, that personal losses that they may suffer, and because they are not in that mindset. And so this leader now has to put down his or her feet. It might be a case where the leader also has to lay off persons in his business because of the damage and the nature of the repair. And so he now says, I have to let you go. This is what will happen, and this is how we will work it. You don't have a choice because I have suffered great loss. This is my business. I have to work with the insurance. I have to do all of those things. And so it's really is doing what I tell you. And then there's the other type of emotional leader at the time that we call the authoritarian or visionary leader. And this leader provides a clear vision and mobilize people for the long term. So you might find that in the hotel industry, they might have to also close, and they might say to workers, this person might say, okay, you have the option to find an alternative, but in the meantime, I will pay you for 3 days. We are not able to pay you for the week. And you come in and help us with the cleaning up, the recovery, the repairs. So they are saying, come with me. And I'm using practical examples because of the different crises. Then you have the affiliate leader that builds emotional bonds. They are focusing on maintaining harmony and building trust and maintaining that trust. So they look out for the persons in their organizations, and they try to help them to recover from personal loss and support them in their personal loss. And they also make sure that they are referred to the organizations, the systems that can help them to bounce back quickly in a crisis. And so you might find that the affiliate leader may actually have to lay off workers in his business, in the organization, may also have to assist a member of his team or so on who has had family members or parents who have been sick for a long time. It used up a lot of funds. It was a terminal illness. And they make ways to assist you to pay your bills and to get over that issue. And so people come first for that leader. And then we have the democratic leader who, in the midst of a crisis or in the recovery healing stage, there is consensus. This leader carries people all the way in the decision making and the values input. They say, what do you think? And they also tell you what is in their power to do based on what you think, and also what is it that is in your power. So how can we work together? What do you think? How can we bridge this gap? How can we use what we have to overcome these things? That's where we are. Very, very much so. You are summing up what I would have ended with, Nick. I feel a leader needs to employ all leadership styles, but the exceptional leader knows when to employ each. And that is the thing. That's the point that we are leading towards. So you have the pace setting leader that sets very high standards and does not expect the team to do anything that he or she as a leader would not do. So it is do as I do. The issue with this is that this leader might be able to come in very early in the morning before it is required and leave late in the evening after everybody is gone. And so this leader, because he or she has set this space, would want persons to actually follow suit when there is a need. And often too, if that is something that is normal for this person, and that can create some amount of conflict among team members, those who are go-getters and those who set high standards for themselves may find themselves competing with this leader or trying to please the leader or putting themselves out of the way, sacrificing family and friend to keep a pace. And those who are really not required to do it, but sees it as a standard, may feel pressured, undervalued, or underappreciated because they choose to follow the 9 to 5 and not come in at 7 and stay until 7. And so it doesn't make them lagging. It doesn't mean that they are not up to par or standard. It means that they are making the choices that works best for them while giving all that they need to give to their workplace. And sometimes excess also, because you don't need to be present to do that. Thank you for joining, Curtis. Good to have you. And then you have the coaching leader, which involves or focuses on personal development and the long-term growth of the team individually and collectively. And so they might, especially at evaluations, encourage persons to try this or try that, and give persons time to prove themselves, to see what they can produce, what works best for them, what is their unique style or personality, what is it that they love to do, especially when it comes to delegation and so on. And so they work well. The key, again, as we said before, is to have these leaders choose when these things are important. So the exceptional leader knows that all of these styles are required at some point in their leadership journey, and they actually make the choice strategically and authentically and practically and realistically and with compassion and with wisdom and discernment when they are to employ each. And notice all the ways that I've gone, because some persons abuse their authority and their power. All right. So heart of hearts. Yes, the ancient Greeks called the subconscious mind heart of hearts. Very much so. All right. We want to look at what are the core skills, of emotional leaders. And the first skill for me, because these I think are the pillars of emotional intelligence leadership. The first one is, for me, self-awareness. You have to know what is happening to you before you spill it out around you. And if you don't understand what triggers you, how you trigger others, what is happening to you, what you can manage, what is your breaking point, and when you need to step back, if you don't understand that, you will spill out and keep spilling on others, and you will keep creating waves that you really don't want to create, and that can affect you so much and your leadership, your team, so much. All right. So I see some comments. I'm going to get to it as soon as I'm finished this point. You also need another skill that you need to have is emotional regulation. You must lead yourself in moments of pressure. And so you must use the tools that you have put on yourself that will grip you and steady you in moments of pressure. It might be a Bible verse. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It might be a song. It might just be a song. It might be that you take moments. It might be that you journal the things that you observe and what you need to do. It might be that you actually have a mentor that you can call on, but you must be able to regulate. That's the second skill that emotional leaders need. The third one for me is empathy. And empathy does not mean that you are kind. Your kindness overflows to the point where you are used by people and you are positively toxic, because you can be positively toxic where you do not look at the truth of the situation, because you feel that there is this too will pass. This too will pass, and it's not the end. And so you every situation is seen to have a positive effect instead of the negative. So you say to people, always search with a tooth comb, with a fine tooth comb or a needle, for the good. But empathy is really seeing and valuing the emotional needs of others and realistically steering them into onto a path of recovery, with allowing them to pay attention intentionally on the steps that they need to take, what they need to let go, what they need to reframe, what is it that they need to accept. That is the empathy and that we are talking about, an awareness. We must give them practical resilience tools. Things don't change because we wish them into being. Things change because we take strategic, focused, and purposeful action that add value and change circumstances that we are desirous of changing. And so I want it to be clear. And then we want to look at another core skill of emotional leadership is purpose-centered leadership. Nothing just happens. And so we must be able to ground our decisions and actions in meaningful direction. Because emotionally skilled leaders create safety, belonging, and clarity. They don't operate in a vacuum. They don't play it by ear. They pay attention. All right. So as we wind down, I want us to look at some of the strategies that emotional leaders use for recovery and healing. All right. So let's look at Nicole. What are you saying? I see you there. I've had to employ all styles. Very good. Case in point, I'm managing 2 different collaborative books. Ha! I wish you all the best with that. One group centralized around a particular theme are quite different based on their similar sets of experiences. For example, they are used to having their requests met immediately. I have had to be firm in reinforcing the project guidelines. Very good. And some of us by nature are more emotional than others, and our emotions are self-directed. And so because we have been taught by our parents who believe that our children must be better than us, and so whatever we suffer, they are not to be taught resilience, they are not to be taught to problem solve or critically think, I must always be there for them. They become discordant notes, and so they become human beings that are very expectant and entitled, and even in their communication with others, they demand that their needs must be forefront at all times. And so some of those things happen because the emotional foundation that we gave to them were that they were not to be patient, and they were not to collaborate with people, they were to compete, and that their needs are most important because that is the tool of survival, choosing self in that type of way, in that particular way. So not choosing self outside of treating others the way you would want to be treated was the position where the position reversed, but choosing self where you become like a crab in a barrel. You step on others. And the thing about persons who step on others to get ahead is that they lose their balance. They eventually lose their balance. All right, so I see you there. Dr. is saying, do you know how few people walking this planet knows the distinction between brain and mind? Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. You're one of the rare ones. I appreciate that so much. All right. So the first thing we want to do, I'm sorry, as a strategy for recovery and healing as a leader in whatever situation or organization, is that you want to normalize emotional conversations, especially when there's a collective sense of loss, physical loss, personal loss, organizational loss. So you want to make it safe for people who are struggling. You want to make it safe for them to say, I am struggling. I am not doing well, without judgment and without criticism and without draining them or pushing them down. You want to give them the time to heal and recover at their pace. And you want to also create that rhythm where you're checking on people, you weekly check in, so that people feel seen and valued, and so that they know that they are not alone, especially when they feel overwhelmed or uncertain. I spoke to a leader on Saturday, and she said to me, I just feel ashamed. I feel worthless. And I have this, I can't get over this terrible sense of fear and of failure. Just being able to speak among persons who make you feel safe with the struggle was enough to start her on the purpose reborn journey. Now, there are persons who would be wondering, if you have lost your home and everybody around you have lost their home, what is the shame that you would be feeling? They don't understand it. But sometimes when you lose your equilibrium, when you were not prepared for certain things, and certain things come into the forefront where you realize there are some reality checks, it can make you feel ashamed of how you treated persons when you were in a position where you were not destitute, or the fear of how you view persons who were struggling around you or were trying and felt this helplessness that you're now feeling, and the shame of knowing that you are in fact like other persons. And so you want to be able to check in with other leaders, with your colleagues, with your team members, and you want to check in with yourself. So when you normalize the conversation with yourself, I'm struggling, I need help, I need to reach out to a coach, I need to reach out to my mentor, I need to go to my church leader, I need to pray, I need to reach out to my neighbor, those types of things. You want to ensure that you check in with each other. Dr. Ava made a post the other day that resonated with me. We need good neighbors at this time. Every time an organization or a community suffers, or a nation or a country, we need to become good neighbors so that we build each other. Because we need that type of support to build back, to set our minds, to focus our minds intentionally, to guard our spirits and bring it into alignment with our realities and the steps that we need to take to accept the change, positive changes that are out there, and to also accept the person that you have become because of what you're carrying out. Not what you're going through, but what you have carried out. Because a crisis, one thing a crisis does is that it brings clarity. And I say that to Dr. Leslie. And sometimes when there's a crisis and you need to invest in a coach, there are persons who are feeling that your only intention is really to profit from it, but the reality is both persons profit, and it is very much needed, because sometimes we're leaking on the inside and we don't realize, because we are moving a lot of times. And that happens especially when there is a grief. We're preparing for the funeral, we put everything together, but after the funeral, after the burial, and everybody is gone, the reality hits us that this is how it is affecting me, this is how I feel. And sometimes it takes years to recover, but investing in a coach carries you a far way into how you deal with it, how you regroup, and actually how you face and challenge and confront those things that are in your closet and that are in your attic, your emotional attic, and how you actually move into the new path that you are being led on to. One of the things that you must also do is to provide clarity. Clarity reduces mental fatigue and fear. You tell people the truth, you be honest and open, and you be very vulnerable. Thank you, Dr. Sasha Anderson, for joining. I appreciate that. Yes, thank you for your affirmation. And you can watch the replay on YouTube. It's on YouTube, so you can watch the replay on YouTube. Have a great day and all the best for the rest of the week. All right, so we want to reduce the mental fatigue that we put on persons. We want to be open and honest, and we want to be frank, and we want to be authentic, but we also want to be gentle. Let me explain what I mean. Although as leaders, we must provide clarity, and there's a session I have coming up on the things that leaders must never share with their team. And because as you give clarity, why do I say you must be gentle and you must be prescriptive? There are some persons that all the whole truth must not be told to them. They can't manage it. They have a mind block, or they have they are in a bubble and so on. And so you have to be very gradual, and you have to be very distinctive and very perceptive when you are delivering information to them, how you deliver this information, when they get everything, and how they get everything. Because this can create problems for them. And remember, not everybody's emotion is at the number 10. Some are at 5 for whatever reasons. We don't know the baggage they carry. We don't know what they are going through. A lot of persons come into an institution physically looking good and emotionally drained, hassled. They perform extremely well in your organization, and some stay over because they dread going home. Some actually fringe when they get a call from a family member because they know it is some demand, it is some distress, it is some hurt, or from a friend. There are many issues that are out there. So you have to pay attention. It's a hard job for a leader. And that's why exceptional leaders, good leaders, leaders in general must be supported. They must have a safe place to vent and to share their own fears and struggles. They must have a community where they can learn and they can get clarity to deal with difficult situations. I offer that community to many leaders because I was a leader myself. I am a leader, and I face those realities. I deal with in these sessions the things that persons are afraid to confront and are afraid to deal with as from the point of view of leadership. And so that is my niche, and that is what I find is helping many leaders. You want to also model rest. Leaders who ignore rest create burnout cultures. So you want to give your staff moments of pause and rest. You want to give them a break. When it is their holiday, just like how it would be Thanksgiving, don't call them, don't make any demands on them. Allow them to spend the quality day with their family. And give a break and pace. One of the things you can do is to pace the assignments and pace the roles and responsibilities, and give persons what they really can manage, because some persons find that they have to pick up the slack, especially when there's a downsizing or there are layoffs. They have to do multiple roles. They have to use one role to kill multiple birds, and they are not able to function. It takes a toll on them. And so in these moments, emotional leadership gives them the required pause that they need for regrouping, recalibration, and restoration and renewal. And that's very, very important, because these small adjustments, they might appear to be very small, but these small adjustments create massive emotional relief inside of teams. And let me repeat, these small adjustments create massive emotional relief inside of teams. And so we want to make that very, very clear. Now we want to look at the leaders in our, because it's very important that as leaders, as we work on our team members, that we also work on ourselves. And so the reality is that no team can heal beyond their leader's personal emotional capacity. No team. No team can heal beyond their leader's personal emotional capacity. That is highly strong and sensitive to burden. You don't know when they will get off. You don't know when you're to go. You have to be on pins and needles. That leader should really be in the kitchen, having tea all the time, and allow someone else to lead the team and direct the team, because you are seen as a time bomb that puts everybody, agitates everybody, and it's not fair to them. So I wanted to give that as a little example so we can understand. So leaders must identify their emotional strain. You must do the inner work for yourself. You must release any guilt or fear or pressure which isn't yours, because sometimes as leaders, we take on everybody's burdens because they actually give it to us. They talk to us about it. They expect us to solve that particular problem. They expect us to understand that they're having a difficult time at home. They expect you to that they are fearful for going to the doctor, but they have been having serious symptoms that they should not be ignoring. They expect you to understand that they were not in the mood to complete a particular job description that was crucial for decision making in a meeting this morning. They expect you to understand that they needed a break. And so you must not feel guilty or fearful when you have to put down your foot and make a decision that is for the good of the organization, but you must be gentle when you're making that decision. You must make it from a place of practicality that is also still supportive. And it can be. So I understand what you're saying. Of course, we all go through a bad moment. Do you need a break? Because I have to assign this to someone right now, because we are not able to wait on you. But I can give you room, maybe 2 or 3 days to regroup, to renew yourself. And if you feel that you cannot continue, I'm still giving you that opportunity to share without judgment or without fear. So those are some of the things that we need. You must also look at reflecting on when you're leading from depletion. So when is it that you are so tired? Do you find yourself making decisions, making errors the way you never used to? Do you find yourself not being able to rest or sleep? You need to know when you're leading from depletion, and you need to take the steps for your renewal and for your rejuvenation and recalibration. Because the next thing you want to do is that you want to practice soul-aligned leadership. You want to lead from purpose and not survival. So you want to make strategic decisions. You want to make decisions that are fair and just. You want to make them in a timely manner. You want to also help your middle managers and your team members to function at their best in a timely manner by making decisions that serve the greater good, by being joyful in aligning their core values with their roles and responsibilities, and by also being respectful, following and valuing and appreciating the input of those that are making whatever it is successful, profitable, and meaningful. You must make those practical connections between what is right as against what is popular. So I am saying, if you heal the leader, you heal the culture. That's it. So we want to understand that healing can be a marathon for some persons, and healing can in fact be a sprint for some, depending on your support system, depending on how your specific stress, depending on what you're grappling with and how you had prepared yourself. And so I always ground leadership in biblical truth. As you know, I'm a faith-based or Christian leadership consultant and life coach. And I want to give you Psalm 34, verse 18, which says, the Lord is near to those who are of a broken heart and save the crushing spirit. Thank you for just joining. I see you, Angelica. Thank you. So I want to remind us that emotional leadership is a spiritual work. I know some might disagree with me, but healing leadership mirrors the heart of God. The proximity, the compassion, the presence. We must be there. We must actively listen. We must be honest and transparent. We must be authentic. We must be true to ourselves. We must understand that we are human and that persons are also humans. And so leaders can be instruments of emotional and spiritual restoration. And so I challenge you today, and I ask you this week, I want you to reflect on 2 questions that are very important as we close. Where can you lead with more empathy this week? Think about it. You can even start evaluating yourself, writing down, looking, observing. You may not have done it. Look at the emotional leadership style that you're using and see out of the 6, which of those is needed in your organization at this time. As a community leader, giving out care packages and so on, which of the styles are you using and which one is needed? And how do you interchange them for the greater good? You want to look at that. You also want to look at the emotional weight that you are carrying that God didn't assign to you. Because sometimes we pour into callings that are not ours. We want to join others in doing the same thing that they're doing when we are to be doing something different. Because this is where true leadership growth starts. Being honest about your emotional load and how you show up for others. Very, very important. All right. So I'm right on time. We want to look at if this conversation resonates with you, and if you want to deepen your emotional leadership, restore clarity, or strengthen your leadership well-being, you can take the next step. Let's take the next step. You can schedule your soul sync strategy session, and we will have this conversation that will help you as a leader heal, because that's what it's designed to do, where you want to go, how I can walk alongside you. And I would be honored to walk alongside you, to guide you, to support you, to be your accountability partner. So you can learn how to lead from purpose and how you can, in fact, turn your emotions into logical decisions. So how you can logically lead with emotion is where I want to head. I also would love if you would support a farmer in Jamaica. I have a special relief project out there to help farmers. I'm using what is in my hand because I'm not rich. And so I'm asking that you buy your gift, My Faith Looks Up, to someone who would need this type of clarity, would want to strengthen their leadership, someone who is giving too much for too long, pouring into others and not pouring into themselves, a leader. When you do that, you support a Jamaica farmer. So I am donating 25% of my profits from the sale of 1,000 copies. And why is it 1,000 copies? Not because it is to be a bestseller, it's there already. We just want to be able to get a substantial amount, a reasonable amount that can assist at least 20 farmers. If there are 2,500 copies sold, then 50% of the profit will go to help those farmers who are greatly affected. And for those who want to give without purchasing that book, because it takes you on your road to your healing also, so you get something for what you give. You can send me a personal DM and I can connect you to a farmer if you want to personally assist, and we can do that type of reporting for you. So you don't there are three ways that it can be done. So you buy or gift, you buy a copy for yourself, or you gift a copy to someone who needs it, or you can be connected directly to a farmer to fit a small need. There are persons who have connected to me directly already. There are persons so far who have received up to 200 chickens over a period, 4 of them, because that is what they desired to have. So they got to feed the chickens along with some the stuff that you would need to feed them, the grains and so on. So you can also do that. And then there is also the option that you have where you can join my Purpose Reborn coaching session. You send me a DM, you get the details, or you can subscribe to my Christian Leadership Essential newsletter, either as a paid subscriber or a free. The paid subscriber means that you join a community that where you can share, you can talk, you can get practical advice for specific issues that you may have in your leadership, and so be referred. That's it for the paid subscription. And the free one is where you get the newsletter by itself. All right. So I want to say thank you so much for joining today. Have a blessed and purposeful Self-Care Tuesday, and see you next week as I continue to inspire authentic leadership in the Christian community. I want you to remember that you're not just a leader, you're a divine vessel with a sacred assignment. And so God doesn't want you to serve from empty. He wants us to serve from overflow. God bless you, and see you next week where we look at another exciting, interesting, informative, productive, and purposeful topic. Thank you all for taking the time. Dr. Sasha, Dr. Leslie, Charito Nicole, Lisa, Curtis, and I am Simone Franklin. I'm looking to it. Marjorie, Petronella, Mary. Thank you so much. And those Charito, and those who are going to be watching on the replay, Jackie, it was a delight having you. And all those who are going to be going on to the replay, thank you so much. Have a great day, Nicholas. I see you too. Thank you so much.